Happy Thursday. We're live, back in action. I am out of breath because I just came running over to the computer because my hands were full of dough about a minute ago. But we are here, we are live, and we are talking about charts, baby. Let's get into it. I honestly, I know kind of what happened overnight, but the market just opened up like a minute ago. So I want to at least cover or talk about some of that. We pretty much gapped up a good bit overnight, and I was talking on the stream yesterday as we wrapped up, I believe, about this blue line. And I was like, hey, this could be a good trade opportunity on a breakout above this blue line. And it kind of was. I mean, right? Don't get me wrong. Like, it broke out. What time was this? Late last night. And then pushed up, pulled back, tested, went a little bit higher. And then at the open so far today, we've come down. Back testing a little bit more than what we did overnight, but we'll see if it ends up being, an area that we hold up above throughout the day. I don't know. However, I did trade last night. I took a trade. Literally, I was getting into bed. Not even kidding you. And I just was checking charts because I had some compression boots on my feet because I'm still recovering my ankles and shins and feet from the race this weekend. And I was like, let me just check the charts here quick and see how it's going. Because I remember, leaving off this afternoon or like yesterday afternoon where like there were some good looks maybe. And I saw on the NASDAQ this setup right here. We had spiked up with the NVIDIA earnings. We pulled back, or I guess once futures trading opened up again at whatever 6 p.m. Eastern time at 1800, so 6 p.m. right? And then we kind of just started to push up. So then here we are at like 9:30 p.m. or whatever time it was, around almost 10 o'clock, and we're breaking this level. So I'm like, hey, that looks pretty good to me. That's actually like a textbook setup for me. And that's also on the NASDAQ, which is stronger than the S&P, which is where I'd want to be trading if I was going to trade the breakout here. Well, I'd rather trade the NASDAQ because it's been stronger, right? So that's what I would do. So that's what I did, and it worked. As we can see, we had a nice push up, and my take profit was like right here, which it just missed. And then this morning at the gym, it hit. So that was cool. That was on this account, which I know it's tough to see. This is our current open position on Bitcoin, but we have, let me see if I can go back to close position. Can you see at the bottom? Yeah, it's tiny, but you can see it. Let me get myself away so you can actually see it. It's small, but here it is. And I'll have a trade recap on this. So NASDAQ 100, entry was 18,906.65, and we made $150, 151 roughly on that trade. And it was a trade that I pretty much went in overnight and went to bed, which it's funny how like nowadays I can do that. Whereas in the past, there was absolutely no fucking chance, dude, that I would be able to go to bed when I enter a trade. I think it's just a lot more trust in the system. But I literally set the take profit, set the stop loss was underneath the low of the breaking candle, and take profit was like right here, and boom. It was like just shy of a 2-to-1. It was like a 1.75, 1.8 to 1 maybe risk reward. About, but that was that. So that was the NASDAQ, and yeah, other than that, I'm still in a Bitcoin long on that account, so we're just chilling on that. They're not really worried, not worried, and I'm not really doing, it's not doing much. It's up a bit because I entered somewhere in here, but my stop is here, and take profit's way higher, like 80K. So I mean, it's a big picture swing on the Bitcoin break. So we'll see what happens. Other than that, we have a couple other positions I guess I can look into. I entered BKNG yesterday, and it's fine. There's just not much to talk about. It's breaking out, but I don't know how fast this breakout will be, how aggressive it will be. So that's my only concern there. But it's just doing its thing. And then we have a position on X, which is a short. I have a position on this, which is a short, and it's not really doing much, but I still love the way it's setting up. So this is a weekly time frame really idea. So not really expecting this to happen like that fast, but I like the setup we have on it. So that's really the deal across the board for me. But now we can talk about whatever else is going on. So 10-year is flat today, roughly. Nothing crazy going on there. Oil was looking weak yesterday, but look at today. It's up 1.5%, 1.6%. It's funny how that just... Oil is like... This is exactly why I don't... I mean, and there's no way to know like ahead of time. I had a suspicion, and the suspicion's playing out, but, you know, there's nothing to trade off of. But the idea was like, yes, oil has what looked like a bear flag setting up the past couple of weeks, but these lower wicks, right, got bought up. Nothing you can do if you had shorted it, whatever. But that's why when you broaden out and take a picture of the bigger context, I think it's important, because when you zoom out on oil, like if you were to go long or short right here, you are playing a game of like, I don't know, it's literally a coin flip. There's no, I don't believe, based off of what I'm seeing, you're at the high volume node, like you have no, like you got nothing there. You know what I mean? Like you don't have any edge in my view. You are playing like this. You're guessing which direction it's going to be. So unless you zoom into the shorter time frames, but bigger time frames, so it's just it's a no-go. That's why I didn't touch it. And looking back, each time that I'm like, oh, looks like we're going to go down, looks like the bear flag may end up panning out, ooh, it bounces right back. So it's like, it's kind of confirming to me like, oh, good that, you know, just leave it alone. AMC, I'm just curious how this is doing. Spiked up. We were watching this one yesterday. It spiked up a bit to 520.22, and then it's pulled back into the close around 5. But now it's like, yeah, I mean, like we talked about those stocks, I just think that they are going to be tough scenes, man. I suspect for those to be pushing higher. That's for sure. But you never know. So Bitcoin's down 0.5%, gold's down 0.5%, silver is up a little bit, but kind of flat. Yeah, it had some breakdowns overnight into yesterday, or I guess yesterday into the overnight. Now it's trying to bounce, which is funny. This is the prior prior high of the past couple of years, around $30, which it's now so far back testing very nicely. So far. I'm looking through the risk on list. A lot of red that I see. ARK down 1.3. So a lot of red and risk on stocks today. The 10-year is not like up much. It's actually pretty much flat. The dollar's down 0.2%. QQQ's up the most because NVIDIA. Where is NVIDIA, by the way? 1,034. Holy shit. Look at that breakout. I mean, now you can't play. In theory, though, looking back, I guess you could have played it. It was tradable, I guess. But, boom. What a break. What a break on that. You also have, let's see, AMD. AMD could be one that maybe needs more interesting. I mean, I'm not very interested until it gets above the 180 area right here. But you've got what looks like a setup of trying to break out over the past couple of day high around 170, trying to push that. You just got to be careful though, I think, with these, because with these day afters, you know what I mean? Because like you just, I mean, who knows? Like you could get just a dud where you get these big gap ups and then like nothing happens the rest of the day. And it just sits all day, which we see it happen a decent amount of times on these earnings plays. And then the stocks that are moving off the back of like a bigger picture earnings mover are even more sketchy, because they could totally go, but at the same time, if let's say NVIDIA stalls out, I mean, these things could just unravel a little bit or just flatten out, and then nothing happens the rest of the day. SMCI, which is kind of like the highs of, what is this, 966, 967, roughly, 970, call it 970. is kind of your level right now on SMCI. Need to break over 970 for the next leg up, which honestly I wouldn't be opposed to trading that if I really wanted to, but needs a nice push, so we'll see if we get it. Otherwise, what else is moving today? Obviously, SMH, new all-time highs on SMH, the semiconductor ETF. Goldman Sachs expects NVIDIA to sustain competitive lead, raises price forecast to 1,200 following Q1 stellar earnings. Funny. This is not funny. It's just, it is. It just is. eBay was one that I was looking at as a potential play soon, but needs to break out over 53, which it has not done yet. It's close, though. It's close. So itchy. I was worried about this weekend getting some like poison ivy or some shit, because the amount of brush that I brushed up against was incredible. I was like, maybe it ticks or some shit like that, but I didn't see any, at least so far. Not yet. If I got any ticks, it's too late, because they're probably deep inside me, engorging on my flesh. No, but you would see them at some point. I haven't seen them yet. You ever think of like, those are the worst days? I don't know. It depends on where you grow up. But if you grew up in the Northeast like me, as a kid, the summertime tick checks, holy fuck. Would be like, your parents would be like, oh, my mom would always be freaked out about ticks and stuff. So, you know, and because, you know, kids, a lot of kids would get Lyme disease in school, and when you're a kid and you're like, oh shit, so you'd always be like thinking about it. And I remember those were the grossest times, like the tweezers, pulling the tweezers out, and you see a tick like inside you, and you're like, oh, there it is. But then you like pull it out and it doesn't come out, or you rip it in half, rip the head off or whatever, and then it starts crawling around, and then you lose it, and then you have a tick in the house that you can't find, and then you're like, oh fuck. Let alone if you've got dogs, you got more ticks coming, pulling ticks off the dogs every other day. Ticks are freaking gross. I think we just got news of something. Something just happened. Let's see. What was the news we just got? We just got PMI, a U.S. Flash U.S. Services PMI and Manufacturing PMI. That just came out. I don't have a number on it yet, but it 9:45 at Eastern. It just dropped. So that is technically. Did the market move at all? Yeah, nothing crazy. Nvidia's up 107% year to date. Year to date. How are the big boys doing today? You know, like the go-tos here. Honestly, Nvidia looks like it's going to break out for a new high if it breaks about 1041. So Nvidia's up 9 and AMD's up 4.5, which look at that pop. Google's up 0.6 on the day. Let's check out the daily chart on Google. Google's daily is giving me a little maybe something. Yeah, above 180. Above 180 on Google. I'm gonna put an alert on that, because that is interesting. Above 180 on Google does look good. Puts you maybe well, I would likely imagine that if you break the 180 point, you're probably going to head to next level would be the spike after earnings, which is 183.65. So like say 183.50 would be the next target, which would be an all-time high on Google. So you are like in like a maybe something snacky right there. Meta, not interested in this shit show. Not a shit show. It's not a shit show. It's just a shitty consolidation. That's what I would say. Not shitty. It's a consolidation. Right at the volume, high volume point of control. Volume point of control. Is that what the people who are really technical say? I think it's called volume point of control. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter what it's called. All that means, all that I know by this little spike right here is that this price, right where Meta is trading at right now, we have seen the most volume exchanged over the past, well, so far on the year. So it's an area of high interest because a lot of volume has been exchanged there. Microsoft just popped to a new all-time high briefly, and then it fell back off, which is just great for momentum. So it's a good sign to stay away from it, in my opinion, personally, the way I trade. But trending is very strong, the upside, but momentum is not necessarily the strongest because he doesn't have like you're not getting the follow through. Amazon, this has just been an absolute chopping channel for the past like 2 weeks. The Russell pulling back again, Tesla down, Apple's down. That's it. Bitcoin's down 1.2%. Gold, silver and gold. Unity continues to drop into the abyss, as it just does every day, a few percent it seems like, and it's got some really good volume on this descent to the downside too. So it's not a stock based off that price action that you'd say, oh, that's a really strong looking stock, or it looks like it's going to reverse. I mean, if you want to buy it, then cool, because you're getting it at the cheapest price you could have ever bought it at. I don't know anything about the company realistically, so I don't know. I just look at that from a chart perspective, and if I'm like, hey, if I believe this is a company that's good, and then you're getting a better deal than you were 3 months ago. For whatever that's worth. Doesn't seem like the stock's worth much. We're headed for it to be pretty cheap pretty soon, the way this is trending. Snowflake. Yeah, shop. Snap. Snap could be a really good candidate for a push higher, I think, if it can pop this little resistance above like 1750. But at the same time, like, you know, it's not there right now. Just letting it do its thing. Shopify will be a fat short idea, I think. A really good one at some point here soon if it breaks below 57. It's about $1 away. That chart looks fucking good. The only thing, not the only thing, but the view that I have on this stuff is that, like, from what I'm seeing, is it is interesting. Like, you look at the market and say, hey, it's going up, it's going up, it's going up. So it's like, oh, okay. Then the market's going up. But you look over at like risk on, and that has not been that good. And there's a lot of examples in risk on stocks that have been shit. And they've been going down, like they've been getting hit harder and harder, it seems like. We just looked at Unity Software as an example. Shopify has been kind of strong, but after the earnings gap down and where it kind of sits, let's see if we zoom out on the volume profile here. Where it sits right now, if it breaks under 57, there's, I suspect, room down to like $50, which would be this gap to fill after the earnings that we had from back in November of last year. That's down to $50. So that's an area that I would honestly, like, if I wanted to short shop, why not? The only thing I'd want to see is a little bit of help in the market, meaning like I don't want to see the market completely blasting to new all-time highs if Shopify breaks down, but there's something to be said. It could be interesting. So I like that a lot, and I would be looking to target like $50 on that if I did play it, which would be like, so you got in at 56, like 75. Stop loss, let's call 59.50 roughly. So you get a gauge. And then target a 50. Oh, fuck, that's good. The 2.4 to 1. So that's actually honestly like even too much. You can probably put the stop loss above the 60 to give yourself a nice wide range. Yeah, 60 stop with a 50 target. 2 to 1 risk reward. I'm going to rip through the list here. Snowflake is getting freaking rocked after their earnings. It's a massive bearish engulfing. I mean, it opened higher, like it was going to be up, and then it got crushed. I'm just going to go through this list really quick. Let's see what we can find here. And the plan is also to add some no copyright music to the back of these streams, because let me tell you, all I can say, this trade's over. I already hit the take profit. I can't sit still. I can sit still, but when it's boring, dude, I need something going on. Woo, look at Sirius XM getting fucked. I need something to kind of jam to, you know? Get me feeling good. Get me thinking. A little light house music, man, in the background, I think would be perfect. Perfect. But just got to make sure it's not copyright, because fuck YouTube. Last thing you want is them to take $2 from you. Or like, not even that. It's like that shit will, there's already enough potential other crap that you got to deal with, but I already put the ads on streams to the lowest setting possible, so it's not like people are getting, because they recently added ads to live streams, like in between, like in the middle of them, which is kind of, in my opinion, kind of like, oh, that's a little much. But if you do things like that, suspicion, they say they don't, but there's suspicion that, you know, you kind of go onto their bad side because you're technically making them less money, and etc., which is not an incentive for them to promote you or to push your shit out, and the whole deal there. Yep. So, I mean, there's not much that I really am looking at so far that I'm seeing that's like, wow, that looked really good. There's a lot of just like, oh, look at that AMD. Holy shit, that got rocked. It was so strong like 10 minutes ago. Oh, get fucked. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my God. That's nasty. That's what we were saying though before, is like, gotta be careful because, did NVIDIA move at all? No, not really. You gotta be careful though with these things. You know, with the stocks that trade on the, like, that are trading kind of in sympathy to like the earnings mover. Looks like a decent short there. Kind of. Yeah, Wells Fargo. BYND. BYND has been like a crazy spiker and then gets freaking crushed. Is that a short to be had? Maybe. Maybe. How's Zoom doing? Better than Unity, but not great. So far, the market's just gone straight down after the open. It gapped up a few bucks, but then it's gone straight down, which is funny how those days, like, these are the funny days because you have like, oh wow, he had good earnings, and like, let's go, it's gonna be great, we're gonna have a massive ripper tomorrow. And then like the day starts out up, and it's like, oh, here we go, it's gonna be a great day. Everyone gets excited because like they saw the big earnings last night, so they come in and watch, and then the market just goes down. It's almost like you're playing. You could almost like trade the sentiment after like, and it's happened a lot after like a really good earnings day, or like a highly anticipated earnings. Not saying you short that stock, but if the market kind of reacts in a really positive way, like in a really, really big positive way, like it's almost like the next morning is like almost always at least a short-term pull, at least like a gut check, at least. And then if it wants to go from there, it'll bounce, whatever. But that's kind of like a perfect example of today. Now, is it something that, I would trade based off of a hunch? Like, no, but it seems as if there's something to that, and maybe there's someone that can, gather some data and maybe want to trade that themselves when certain criteria is met. It could be something, worthwhile. Really, it could. City is going to get taken off the list there. Mm-hmm. Just going to get removed a bunch of these lines that we got going on too. Some old stuff. Schwab getting hit the past like 2 days. Goldman Sachs. I can probably get rid of these lines as well. Baidu, Oracle. What is that? What is that? How did Baba do? I want to check that in a second. How's Baba doing? How are like the Chinese guys doing? The Chinese guys. Chinese stocks. AbbVie looks like it wants to become a short idea. It really does. It's kind of wonky though, but it doesn't look good. FedEx I had on my short list, and then I didn't trade it because of this wonkiness that you had back in like May 13th or whatever. But look at that, it ended up going lower. McDonald's does not look good. Damn, Intuit got a nice downtrend breakout and went for it. Home Depot does not look good. This is weird to me, is that, you do have a generally very strong market, but a lot of these things don't look good. I'm not seeing a lot of charts that look very strong. Maybe they got some rotation occurring. There's XPEV. That thing spiked hard on their earnings and then it's gotten killed since. UNH. Robinhood went to a new high of the year a couple of days ago. No, there's nothing that I want to add to my lists. Qualcomm's been an absolute freaking monster, not even funny. But there's nothing that I want to add to my list at all. Chinese stocks, NIO breaking down. That doesn't look good. Baba did well on the earnings push, and then after earnings it hit like 90 and change, and then it's fallen like $10 since. XPEV, the reason why I look at this one is because NIO doesn't look there. Yeah, nothing to trade there, but no, nothing that I would like. Maybe another day. This one doesn't look that great either, but you never know how it'll finish the day. Booking. It's still above the breakout point. No reason to get out of it. Ten-year. Was there like a lag going on there? Maybe. But it's up 0.8 now on the day. Maybe that explains a little bit of why risk on is not looking great. S&P went red. The Dow and the Russell are red. The NASDAQ is still green, but not by much. And it's fading. It's fading. Like new all-time high on QQQ today, but coming back to fill the gap, it looks like. What's going on, Matt? BTC, let's say, look, I have a long on Bitcoin right now, actually, for a swing. So that's my bias after the breakout of this trend. My stop is at 60K. My target's like 80K, so it's a wide one. Because I got in around 65-ish, somewhere in there. So it's a wide stop, but that's the bias. I'm not the bias. That's what the charts are telling me. I guess the chart bias I have on it. I like it a lot. I do think it looks good. The only thing I would say is that, which I'm not super surprised by the little pullback the past couple of days, had a nice pop, had a nice little breakout. Volume was okay, nothing crazy though, but it came right up into the top of the range, right? So you got up into that top of the range, and now we are not surprisingly rejecting. ETH is a beast. Let's pull this up. That's been a beast. This is a very impressive move, I think, on it. I don't have very much. I have like a tiny amount of ETH that I bought. Not from a trading perspective, just like that I had some, and then I bought a little bit at some point in here. I don't know where exactly, but at some point in there in the lower threes. Just to kind of like, I wanted to like round out my position, because then I want to be able to, when I sell it, I want to be able to sell the whole thing. And it's on Robinhood. I had it on Robinhood. And for whatever reason, last time I tried to sell all my ETH, it left like 1 cent worth of ETH in the account. So it kept saying that I had ETH, and I would get all the notifications about it. I'm like, I don't really care. I want to sell it all. I click sell all, I want to sell all. So that was really all I really did. But looks good. My view of it though would be like, not all-time highs there, by the way, but look at that weekly chart. Very nice weekly chart breakout on it. So I like the looks of these charts. They look pretty good. Bitcoin's chart, by the way, that weekly does not look as good if it closes here, but we have another day, so we'll see. The weekly on ETH looks really good. If this were to rip up over, like, what's the move here? If it goes from here, it breaks to new all-time high, it's like 30% from here. If it goes to like 6K, you know, it could go way higher, could go to 10K, who knows, if this cycle is crazy. 6K plus in my book, I'll be out, like I'll be selling it all. But that's just me. Maybe someone else will be holding for 10K and 20K. Who knows? Maybe it does go there. I don't know. But I'm not, I don't care. I'm not like that big of a crypto guy, as in like trying to maximize it. Like if I get really good gains on on this bull run, I'm going to make sure I lock gains at some point. Will I sell all of it? Maybe not, but it doesn't really matter. I won't get mad at myself if I sell all of it. It's kind of my view of it. So we'll see, but that's the plan. So over like 6K, and I'm going to be pretty much selling it all if that happens. Far away from here though. Far shot from here. So we'll see. Bitcoin, on the other hand, my view, it would be, which by the way is down 2% today. My view is going to be 100K. Like I'm very curious what happens at 100K. I think there will be a substantial resistance at 100K, but then again, you never know. If we get above 100K, I'll probably sell some up near 100K because I have more Bitcoin than Ethereum. And I have them, crazy low averages. Some maybe somewhere in the 20,000 range. I don't know what my average is. Like I bought it many months ago. Many months ago. But if we get over 100K, I've completely mentally been in my head. I'm like, yeah, that would be more than an amazing move for me. I would lock that in, and if it goes to 500K this cycle, cool. I don't care. Doesn't really matter. In my book, I'm happy. I would be happy to take 100K, or anything above 100K would be amazing. So, just as like a proactive thing is in if that happens, then because at some point we're gonna have that, we're gonna get that push, and then it's gonna dump. And I just don't care to be involved in the backside of that and dealing with I don't want to have any mental energy being put to that, even if it's not even a big deal. So I just want to get out. Nice. 18K, dude. Disable my ad block and watch the full. That's sick. I appreciate it. But I also lowered it to the lowest settings you can have for ads on streams, which is hopefully making it for a better experience. Because you can make them, they give you 3 options. It's aggressive, moderate, and then conservative. And so I have it on conservative for ads. But I wonder how much people make from that. I wonder if you had a stream with 10K live viewers and you had aggressive ads on, how much, I wonder how much that you would even make from that. But I know the only problem is that I just don't know how YouTube views that. And are they weird about that? But did I shadow ban you because you have not shadow ban, but do they not push your shit because you don't have as many ads? I don't know. Dude, yeah, but 18K to 100K would be nuts. That's a great move. And maybe it goes more, but who cares? In my view, who cares? Because eventually there'll be a backside. And the same thing with the stock market too, right? It's the same exact thing. Premium. I had it for a bit because I had it and then I canceled it. But if there was something that I would pay for, I don't watch, I feel enough YouTube for it to matter to me that much. But I did have it for a month. A month ago, I had it for maybe the month of April. And it was kind of nice to be able to play a video that I just wanted to play, but turn off my phone, 2 ads, 40 seconds each. But yeah, same thing with the stock market. Like I was saying before, you dude, the higher this goes, what is the incentive to want to be fully maxed out, fully invested the higher this thing keeps going? Same thing, obviously, right, the trend is up to the right, and that's just the trend of the market over the course of our history. But my suspicion is that we are going to eventually get one of these, decades. Maybe a decade is maybe a lot. Maybe it's a 2 decade. Maybe it's a half a decade. I don't know. But we're going to get one of these at some point, which is going to be epic because it's going to suck. Well, in the grand scheme, there was a couple of years of up, a couple of years of down, a couple of years of up, a couple of years of down, and then a couple of years of up, right? So it's not it's terrible. There's movement. It's not like when we look back at that and say, well, you could have a lost decade. in the grand scheme of a lost decade, if this actually were to be what happens in a lost decade or whatever you want to call it, you know, that's not there. That's not that bad. That's like, it's the same thing. Because if you, you know, look at it and go, oh, fuck, well, you know, the market's down a lot, and maybe I'm a little bit heavier in my dollar cost averages, like down like somewhere in here. You don't know when the bottom's going to be, but that's going to probably serve you pretty well eventually. And then, oh man, you know, crazy, we're going below the lows of a couple years ago. Well, good time to probably buy some more, right? Or to be a little more aggressive if you could with your dollar cost averages, you know, down in there. As in, like, if you normally buy every month or buy once a week or whatever into the S&P, which would be, I think, a good way to play the game long term, maybe you want to buy a little bit more. You want to buy, you know, twice a week when the market's really, really weak, or twice a month when the market's really, really weak, you know, and if you can afford it. And honestly, to me, in my view, it's like, well, then you probably can afford it. It's a matter of priorities. It's like, well, what makes more sense? Does it make sense to maybe pull back on spending over on this thing to put some of that into the market versus or to do this instead of this, because there's a really good opportunity right now in the market. I you know, would suspect over the course of, you know, years playing out, if you were just to be able to buy this dip, you're probably gonna be you'll be happy you did. But that's my suspicion, is that like at some point we're gonna get one of these. When? I don't know. But when that occurs, you know, the chances are increasing for that to eventually happen the longer we keep going up. So that's my only thing about the overall market. And it's not like timing that, guessing the game, what's going to be the event. I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't really matter. It's more so if you just go back in time and look at history and look at these cycles in history, right? You know, you have many good years, but then you have periods of where things are not that great. So if you go back to, you know, I guess this span of time was kind of the same thing, you know, and that was from like the 60s. That was over 10 years. And then you go from, you know, the late 70s on a crazy run really until 2000. So like a 23-year span. Are we that? So who knows? There's no way to know, you know, exactly when that's going to be. But we've now, you can say, from like 2010, it's been about 14 years now, roughly 14 years of it being really good, which is a decent amount, you know. And yeah, you had some pullbacks along the way. This is not really even much of a bear market to talk about, to be honest. This is more of a sharp pull, but that was a quick gut check, snap back up, new highs. So we really haven't had like a true like nasty bear market that lasted for a while. That was like big. Like this one was tiny back in 2022. Yet there was still some incredible destruction of risk on assets and stuff. So picture like remember what happened to some of those risk on stocks, and like what happened to like Bitcoin, for example, back in 2022. And maybe that will change next bear market, who knows. But like picture if you got like this. Picture if you had the like late 2000s to 2002, early 2003 bear market. If you got that right now, like what would happen to some of the stocks that that we've been watching that had like done really, really well? Like what's going to happen to some of those risk on stocks? What happens to stocks like Nvidia that has been inflated massively if we go into a 3-year bear market? That's what's kind of crazy to think about. And it's like not fear mongering, because everyone fear mongers and blah blah blah. I'm not saying that's betting on the downside and it's going to be the end of the world soon. No, because I'm sure people have been jerking that off for a long time. People were getting really, really excited about that. A couple months back in here, they're like, yeah, this is it. The market's going to come down for a long time and we're going to drop down under 3,000 S&P, and that didn't happen. So everyone has that. When it happens, though, don't be surprised, is my view. Flippa's in the house, baby. Go along the 10-year. Let's check that 10-year. It's having a decent day today. I see what you're saying. I like that idea. And my view, if you went long the 10-year right now, where's your stop going to be? It would be right. I would put it right under 4.4. Right under there would be my thoughts. Because if it fails that, then I'm not interested in really. All right, that's just my head. That's not what I would maybe, what your idea or your head maybe is pointing to, but that would be my view of like, yeah, I would like to see it hold that area. 4.4. Yeah, NVIDIA is freaking nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Yeah, the election's going to be really good. I mean, that as in, I guess, entertainment to watch. I don't think it's going to be good, as in, I don't know if our options are going to necessarily be good either way, but because it doesn't really matter what happens. You're going to have a country divided, and kind of no matter what is the unfortunate aspect of it, which you hate to say, but that's just what it is, man. That's just the way it's going to be. I don't have much faith that people are going to now unite together. You would need a different candidate. You need a different candidate than the two options that we kind of have. So until that occurs, I think we're going to be kind of doing this, a lot of this as a country for the near future. Real estate, yeah, that's that's the other thing too. Like, I don't want to people have a lot of views of that, and who are we? Who am I? Who are we to talk about some of this stuff? Because we're just random people every day. People are just talking about whatever. But like, shit got so inflated, the past couple of years, ever since COVID, that like it just doesn't. The trend or the trajectory is not historically sustainable. Like, if you look back through history, when things like this happen, like, it doesn't sustain forever. And then eventually you have the opposite. You have like the kind of balancing force will eventually kind of change things. And so from a real estate perspective, what is that going to be? Like, I don't know what it's going to be catalyst wise, but maybe it's a slow, period. But you kind of need a balancing act almost to pan out or to happen in order for like things to become normal. Maybe they never will, or maybe this is the new normal. I don't know. But like, I find it hard to believe that based off of the current way that income and wages have gone up versus asset prices versus real estate, food, you know what I mean? It's like a pretty big disconnect there. Like, we haven't seen the same increase in incomes and wages that we've seen in percentage wise in different asset classes, in food and in real estate and stuff. So I don't know. I have no idea. All I'm viewing it as is, if we do get a correction or a bigger crash or whatever, or a much bigger bear market for the stock market or for real estate or for whatever, I would like to have cash when people don't have cash and when people are hurting. Hate to say that, but like, right now, are people hurting? I don't think it's that bad. Certain people are hurting. I'm sure middle and lower class are hurting, obviously. No, I'm sure. Definitely. People who haven't been able to take advantage of the housing market, people who had to then buy, who were forced to buy homes or are forced to rent when things are going up and up and up. If you're forced to buy a home now, and you've got a 7 or 8% mortgage, that's crazy. That sucks. So those people maybe are hurting. But relatively speaking, as a whole, things are like still strong economically from what we're being told data-wise and stuff. When that's not the case and people are hurting like bad, is when the opportunity really presents. And we're not really there. Like, we're not there. Like, people are hurting bad. Bitcoin would not be going up like this. Stock market wouldn't be at all-time highs, likely, if people were hurting very, very bad across the board. So some stuff is good. Live stream the election. There'll be some fun. There'll be some fun, I would imagine, days when we get closer to that in terms of market action and stuff. It's going to be interesting because you're going to have, like, I would think, some crazy reactions. I'm not plugged into that space, to be honest, very much like I used to be, where I would be very closely following a lot of what's going on like social media, from like, oh, this person said this, or this thing just happened, or this rally just happened, and like there's this that I used to care. I don't care, to be honest, as much now. I just say, okay, what are the big catalysts? What are the big news pieces that are coming out this week, or what do we have this week that could move the markets? Like, who could say some shit that could move the markets? And then from there, just wait for the market to do some stuff and then react to it, is kind of the view. Versus try to sit there like, oh, we're going to get a big move. Well, if Trump says this, or if Biden says this, or if Powell says this, and it means we're probably going to go up. And then they say that, and then the market does exactly the opposite of what you thought. So it's like a lot of just, to me, it's a lot of kind of just like, it's a waste of time. So this trade doesn't look great, I will say, for now, the booking trade, but we still got some room until stop hit. Market's just giving it back today, so I'm not surprised by that. The other trade that I'm in is X US Steel, which I am short, which is like kind of right where my average is right now, so not much has occurred there yet. But I got a trade recap on the NASDAQ. I traded this, or I guess last night. So we got the NASDAQ trade recap dropping later today. On a roll, baby, this month. On a pretty good roll. I'm being I didn't do anything until Wednesday night this week. So there's just no reason to do anything. Yeah, the people who recently bought homes too, like the FOMO, there definitely was a lot of that, and maybe still is a lot of that. But then there's people who like kind of had no choice, There's a lot of people who kind of got into like a situation where they're like, well, I'm getting married, or I had kids, or whatever, and well, I'm not going to wait anymore for the housing market to come down before I buy a house. I got to buy a house, So there's that too. 1863. Oh my God. Mortgage during Carter. Dude, that's insane. That is nuts. If that happens again, that would be. Well, I'm thinking about it from myself as someone who's only rented my entire life. I don't know. I go back and forth on this too. Because I don't know. I think I'm not the type of person, at least right now at 25, that's like, oh, I want to buy a house, or I want to have a house. You could rent a house if I really wanted to get a house and get a kind of feel for like, do I want to deal with like this whole thing being mine, or dealing with a yard and then like security stuff and neighbors and shit in that regard versus like an apartment or a condo. I've only had apartments. I don't know what I prefer. I feel like I would probably be go more the condo route, but it doesn't make sense. Like right now, there's absolutely no incentive from someone like me to do that. Like there's no incentive to go out and like get a mortgage on something. If I had cash to buy something, yeah, but even that, there's no incentive because you're paying like a premium right now. In theory, it's much better than getting a mortgage. So in my view, if you can avoid the mortgage, but like if rates came down, or if the market got so weak and maybe rates went up a lot, but that then corrects prices of houses or homes, whatever, and you had a bigger, couple of year drawdown and things got pretty dire for some people and you got some cheap stuff going out, then it becomes a maybe in my head like, I might want to look into potentially buying a condo or this or that or a townhouse. I don't know what I want to live in. I don't know. I really have no idea. But then it like would make me start to think a little bit deeper about that. Would I want to buy something like that? Because it almost feels like you're getting a deal. If you have the money to do it, then you're getting a deal. And then in a couple of years or in a decade, if things reverse and maybe you bought it at a relative low, or who knows if you're buying the low, but if you buy it on the way down, there's a better chance that you'll be positive on your investment at some point. And if you want to get rid of it, maybe you can have like I don't want to say a flip. That's not the intention of it, but maybe you have a better opportunity to be able to walk away from it at some point if you're like, yeah, I don't really want this anymore and I want to move on. That's kind of my view, but like it's not even worth thinking about until the market got so like appealing from a buyer perspective. But then at that time, right, people probably are making less money. There's probably going to be a reason why the market's going down. So you'd have to be kind of the outlier in that, as in you personally are not making less money in the economy because everyone else is or whatever, or because of whatever else happened. So it's a little more complex. My grandfather bought a house. I think it was $35K. His house in Brooklyn, New York, when he bought. Now I don't know what year it was. I don't know. Maybe it was the 60s. Might have been the 60s. $35K. You know what it sold for a couple years ago? Over $2 million. And what it was I believe a couple of, I don't know if they were Chinese families, but I believe it was Chinese families. But don't quote me exactly on that. Bought the house, and because he had like a lower level, like he essentially had a house that had the ability to make it into 3 apartments. Like you can make this one like house into 3 apartments, and which is very common, I guess. Like not, I guess it's quite common in Brooklyn. And if you know the area and stuff, so he had a tenant below, I believe, for like all the time. And then I think my parents or my dad and his brothers, like they kind of like all rotated. They had like a basement, and there was like an apartment in the basement, kind of like with the little room, little bed, little kind of something going on, closets and stuff. And they would go they would kind of fluctuate between who was living in there for a period of time, then whoever saved enough money to buy a house bought a house, and it was kind of like this rotation that they had. But the people who bought it, I believe, either it's multifamily or it's like one family. I don't know if they're related or not, but they essentially, what they do is they come in and they'll like make that into like, they'll make it so that like 5 or 6 families live in there. They'll put up some walls, they'll change things up a little bit. And so it's not like a demo, but like they are going to like throw like change up the interior. I'm sure it would look completely different now if I was to go back and walk through the house from what I remember as a kid growing up and going there. But I mean, that's insane to me. $35K, although right from the 60s to 2022 or whatever it was sold, I forget exactly when it was sold, but it was like 2 years ago. $35K to over 2 million. Crazy. Yeah, but Brooklyn is definitely a different area though, compared to. I mean, it's from depends upon where, but like shit's expensive there nowadays for sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's. I don't know how bad it is compared to California, as in like the comparisons, but that's just because I'm from the East Coast and that's all I really know. But I know New York. I know I have a friend who rents in New York, and he's paying like a shit ton of money in rent, but he's got roommates and stuff too. So like he was paying, I'm pretty sure, more in rent than like or around my entire Austin apartment rent. He was just paying that by himself, and he had 2 other roommates. So it was like 3x whatever he was paying. It was like 3x that. I was like, Jesus, dude. So your apartment's $3,000 or 3 times more expensive than my apartment in Austin. And I have a bigger apartment. Like the apartment's like bigger, like in terms of square footage, or they were similar size. I don't know exactly. They were like similar size, or mine was bigger. It was like crazy just to hear that. But that's New York for you, though. Dude, Texas, man. Everyone, once I moved in 2020, it was like everybody started moving in, and it kind of sucked. That's what I'm not sure exactly when, but when I moved to Arizona, unless something drastic in my life changes between now and like whenever that I move, once that happens, like I'm just hoping that no one moves to fucking Arizona. I'm like, please just leave. Like I don't want to move somewhere and then all of a sudden people are like, yo, this is pretty good, and then I'm gonna be like back in the same situation as I was in Austin. Like everyone moved to Austin right after I moved to Austin, and it became like a shit show. I mean, it just spiked prices up. It got super crowded, relatively speaking, and then like it just adds like a whole other component. And I'm not a big I don't like the city vibe, man. I really don't. I think my view of like Scottsdale was a perfect vibe. It was like you have the like mountains, you can look around, there's some mountains. So you can go out to the mountains and like within a walk or a small drive, you can just go and then be in the middle of the desert and not see anyone. You see some people, but like see like less, like be kind of by yourself if you wanted to be. It's quiet. You can easily drive into Phoenix, which I'm never probably going to do. 20-30 minute drive to Phoenix and you're boom in the middle of a city. If you want it, not like I'm going to volunteer to do that. But then you have everything, like you have everything you could possibly want within like a 30-minute radius of you. And this could be like on the outskirts of Phoenix as well, really anywhere. So you have like you have stuff, but it's not as packed in as like a city. And then you can easily escape it. It's kind of like in my view, it's kind of like the perfect place. The perfect kind of medium, happy medium. You know? There's no like buildings necessarily. There's some like taller apartment buildings, but there's no like high-rise buildings or super high-rise buildings. And then, so it's not super crazy, but then you can easily escape. Girlfriend moved to Arizona last month. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I feel like it's like, also, I don't want to say that this is kind of how it is, but I started running like about 15 months ago. It was like early spring of last year. And now all I see on like an Instagram feed and whatever, run club, this fucking run. Like I see everyone running now. And I'm like, maybe it's just my feed. Okay. But I feel like running has gotten very, very popular over the past year. And I don't want to say that I was there first, but I'm like, why are people doing this now? I don't want to have like, I wanted to do something different, and now everyone's fucking doing the same thing. It's like, please. It's kind of how I feel. But yeah, it's Arizona's gonna be it's hot as shit. So I have to visit. I was there in the winter, end of February. So I want to go during the heat, maybe do some like apartment scouting and stuff, some areas, look at a couple different areas. I think I know where I want to be, but I do a couple minor scouts and then do that in the summertime. See how like the 115 type of shit really is. Like how bad is it, you know? Because I know 110 in Texas and in Austin last year, we had a lot of days over 100 degrees. I don't know how that felt. And it was pretty nasty. But the drier heat, is that going to feel any better or is it going to be just the same? Like, are you going to notice it? I don't know. Yeah, the FOMO. Dude, the FOMO is crazy. With anything, man. Like, I can't tell me how many people that, like, I've just seen recently that have moved in the past, like, 2 years to, like, Austin, Texas. And I'm like, you know, it's not as cool, I think, as people make it come out, as people are making it seem. It really isn't. You know, maybe for some people it's kind of nice, but, oh, look at that little breakout on NVIDIA. Popping off there. It's not as cool, I think, it gets hot. You don't really have, I mean, you've got like Barton Springs and stuff, and you've got Lake Travis if you drive like a half hour to an hour out to the lake and stuff, which is very nice. Don't get me wrong. But like in Austin itself, like it's not as you know, I mean, there's not like you're kind of stuck in a flat. It's actually more hilly than you think. But I don't know, man. Like you're kind of stuck. You don't have terrain features. You don't have mountains, and you don't have an ocean anywhere nearby. So it's kind of like, to me, I just find that I want something like that, and I think mountains is probably, like, the ability to get access to some mountains is probably requirement for me. That showed. I mean, I don't like this because of just like the wickiness of it. These little wicks right here and these wicks, But, and also, it did just have earnings, so I'm a little skeptical. But it doesn't look bad necessarily. Yeah. Other than that, though, I don't really know. I just don't. I mean, I already have open positions, so I don't know something to do. Oh, Hunter Mountain. Yeah, I can't. I can definitely not live somewhere that doesn't have access to like something like that. And I'm not opposed. I do think I would love, like, if I was able to pick up right now. I have to still go and like visit more and see it a bit more to like know if I really want to move there. But I still say Hawaii, because even if I don't have mountains and I'm not like access to snowboard, because I snowboard too. Like if I can't snowboard and stuff easily without like without flying. By the way, I would just go to Japan, dude. You're in Hawaii, just fly to Japan. You're already halfway there, and you can get insane POW, absolutely insane POW in Japan. So that would be actually a sick idea. Now that I'm thinking about it, that would actually be awesome. Like move to Hawaii. Yes, you have to fly either back to the US or to Japan, which would be nuts. And then the rest of the time, I'm just gonna surf. Like whatever. I'll just surf. I'm not opposed to that. I'll be hanging out on the beach and surfing whenever I want, essentially year round. Sounds like a pretty good life to me. So the more I think about it, I'm like, dude, Hawaii, honestly, it's a play. I'm just like, not that how much do I don't want to say this in a dick way, like how much do I really care about being close to family, you know, because like you move out somewhere like that, I obviously would have no family out there, so it's like, well, no. And you know, probably would move, you make new friends, but you'd leave everything else behind in the States here, I guess the lower 48, if you want to call it that. You just have to make it a point to travel back, which is fine. More expensive, but it's fine. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, that's my next thing on the bucket list. Not really bucket list. That's the next thing is learn how to surf. Vietnam. No, I definitely want to make it a point to travel more, A, and then B, by in doing that, like I don't think I could pick a place necessarily to move or to like buy something, a property, if I want to buy a condo or whatever, until I've traveled more. I feel like I have to rent until then because I don't know. And I changed my mind. I moved to Austin, Texas, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Like Austin, I'm probably not going to leave here for a long time, like whatever. And then after 3 years, I was like, yeah, I don't really necessarily care about Austin that much anymore. So, alrighty, guys. This, I don't mean to be like boring. It's just, there's not much as really going on. I have a position on X on the short side. US Steel, which is starting to come back down a little bit. It looks like it's starting to come back down. Yeah, I like this setup on the short side there. And then I have a long on BKNG, which doesn't look amazing, but we didn't hit stop loss yet. And then I got a long on Bitcoin, which is up a bit, but we'll see. Not surprised it's rejecting a little bit off the 70 area. Not surprised at all. It's going to be it needs to break through that though, which we'll see if we can get that pop. So we'll be back for a stream tomorrow for Power Hour. That's the plan. Otherwise, I'll have a trade recap on the NASDAQ trade that I took last night in a couple hours. Peace. Enjoy your Tuesday. I'll see you in the next one.